What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. Well, today I wanted to go ahead and chat with you guys about my 580 rig. So this is a hanging rack 580 rig. There's one 590 in there, and we are currently running on this RevTech motherboard. It's a rare find. These things are like gold now. I think they go for like $700 to $800 online because they don't make them anymore. But I wanted to go ahead and chat with you guys about my 580 rig because I only built this a few months ago and I love this thing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and power this down. I'm going to strip these cards out. I'm going to go bring them out onto the table, and we're going to talk about each of the cards. We're going to put them back in, and then we're going to talk about hash rate and profitability and my overclock settings. So give me 1 minute. I'll pull these out, and we'll take a look together. Okay, so here we have our 7 GPU rig. It's made up of a variety of different cards. You can tell we have quite a few of the XFX cards. I have pieced together this rig over the last 8 months or so, I'd say. So my first 580 was actually this guy here. So this is a Sapphire Pulse, and it's several years old actually, and I actually bought it from a guy in New York, not working. Like, I knew it wouldn't work, and I took a huge gamble. I bought this card for $100, which any card that like the owner that listed is like broken, does not work, don't take that gamble. Please don't take that gamble. I got lucky. So I bought it and it didn't work. Like, I couldn't get it to work on my own. So I sent it out to my guy who repairs GPUs. He was able to go ahead and repair it and get it back to me. So this was a huge win. But this is like, I really love this card. The Sapphire Pulse cards and the Sapphire Nitros are huge workhorses. I've always been a huge fan of them. You pay a premium when you buy their cards, but it's definitely worth it. So the next few cards, we have a variety of the XFX 580s. So this one here, this one we can see is the XXX, and it's the OC. So, you know, some of their naming conventions are really kind of goofy, but end of the day, it's a 580 8 gig XFX. They have a few submodels for the XFX series, but we got that one and this one. Now, the fourth one in here, if you take a look, this one's a little different. Let's take a look this way. And we'll do that. You ready? So this one is definitely bigger, you can see. So this guy is not a 580. This one is actually a 590. Oh, we're out of order. Got to put them back in order because I know where they go and where the overclock settings go. Make my life easier. So this, I was really surprised to stumble upon this. I was looking for another 580 and came across this 590, and I did my research and was like, dang, like 590? Okay. So let's see if we can get some lighting in here. So the RX580 8 gig here, and it has the code name in here, Fat Boy. It's literally what it says. So it is. It does an 8-pin and a 6-pin, and I was happy to get my hands on this card. So it's very similar to the 580, but the memory that this thing can handle is significantly higher. I think we have this overclocked at 2300. We'll have to look on the computer when we swap over to the computer and look at the hash rate and everything. So this card definitely could take significantly more memory, hence why it does a little bit more. It does closer to your 33 to your 34 mega hash. And it still performs well on your power consumption, so that works out nicely. So we have 2 more of the 580 8 gigs. And dude, guys, the XFX, man, they're everywhere. They're everywhere on the pre-owned market, on Facebook Marketplace, on OffersUp, on YouTube. The cards are everywhere, and they work great. So then finally, we did a video on this guy just a few weeks ago. This little guy here. So this is the MSI 580 8 gig card, and we bought it with the motherboard that we used on our Flux rig down there, and it also came with the heatsink. And this one's worked great as well. and we've lucked out really well. So we have 7 580, yeah, 590 in there. So we'll say 6 580s with 1 590 in here. But I love these cars, guys. These cars are amazing. I am constantly on the hunt for an eighth card. I actually saw a 590. I reached out to them yesterday, never heard back, and then it was sold. And I was like, oh, dang it. I should not even ask if it was available. I should have just like made an offer. But let me go ahead and get these plugged back in. Got to make sure they're in the right order. They're going in the right spots. And then let's jump over to the computer. I want to look at the hash rate, the power consumption at the wall, and then I also want to go ahead and look at their profitability on what to mine. Okay, so we got our rig put back together. Go ahead and squeeze in here. She's a beauty. I love this thing. The 580s are awesome. Okay, so this rig is the only rig that's currently powered on between this one and this one right here. This one, we're using a 1200 watt power supply in there with a breakout board. Let's go down to our voltage meter. Let's see if you guys can see it. I'm gonna try to zoom in here. Let's see if it'll come on fuzzy. There we go, perfect. Okay, so our watts are about 980, 979. Oh, well, going up there. Okay, we'll say about 980 as an average. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and jump over to the computer and let's talk about the hash rate and profitability. Alrighty guys, so we are over on the computer right now taking a look at the rig that we have named Gambit. So as you guys know, I name all my rigs based off of X-Men, and this one's called Gambit, one of my favorite X-Men actually out there. So let's go ahead and take a look through our cards, talk about our overclock settings, and get into it with our power consumption and our profitability. So we talked about how our rig at the wall does what, 980. So that's the first thing I want to point out to you guys. So taking a look, you can see that HIVEOS is trying to tell me that I'm using under 100 watts for each of these. Absolutely wrong. 100% wrong. HIVEOS is not accurate at all with AMD cards. So if you guys were hoping or basing any of your profitability numbers off of HIVEOS, please don't. Please get a voltage meter and get yourself some accurate wattage numbers, because HIVEOS is never right. Never right to a T. I'll be the first and the last one to tell you guys that. So that being said, we talked about the fact that our rig uses about 980 watts. So if we average that between what we're currently seeing on the screen, 980 divided by our 7 GPUs, each one's about 140. Now, granted, that's not calculating in our RevTech board. So, you know, the RevTech board might use a little bit in there, but my guess is we're using between 100 and 120 watts, 130 watts each card. So that being said, we talked about the fact of having a number of XFX cards. So looking at it, we have also a number of different memory types. So even though our XFX here, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 XFX 580s. One of them's a 590. But you can see we have Samsung, we have Micron memory. I think that's it. So 1, 2, 3. Yep, 3 Samsung, and 1, 2, 3 Micron. So it gives you some better ideas there. So memory is a huge factor when it comes down to taking a look at your memory and your overclock settings. And kind of, you can notice here, like, look at my overclock settings. They are nowhere near the same on many of the cards. I think there's 2. My 2 Samsung XFX RX580s have the similar overclock settings. 1150 on your core, 1 for the DPM, 900 for the what do we got here? The core voltage, wow. And then 2100 for our memory clock. So a lot of shared information in there between the 2 Samsung. But once we get into Micron, it's definitely different. I mean, this one right here is 1270 at 3 for my DPM, and then 900, and then 2100. But if you take a look at another Micron here, here's another Micron 580. That one's at 1225. And then it's at 885 and 2150. So you might be going, Hobbyist, why are you all over the board? Well, the reason is I went ahead and spent time fine-tuning each individual card. I didn't go, okay, this is the blanket overclock settings. I used this for a while. I wanted to fine-tune these cards the best I could to eliminate invalid shares. And I actually overclock them on an individual level. So each of these cards is treated as an individual here, an individual card. So that's why the overclock settings that you guys are seeing are kind of, I don't want to say all over the place, but very unique to each card. My most problematic card is the card on the bottom. Take a look at it. That's the XFX Radeon RX580 Samsung. It's at 1160 for the core, 4 for the DPM, 900 and 2050, because this thing constantly had invalid share issues. Now, I have gone ahead and I have used the Polaris BIOS one-click editor on all of my cards. If you guys are interested on a tutorial on how exactly that works and how to use it, I'll put a link up on the screen now and also down below. In addition to that, I completely forgot to mention the 590. I actually have a whole video on this card, codenamed the Fat Boy, looking into this card and testing out this card. So I'll put that one up there too, as I think that's going to spark a lot of your interest, those of you guys that have the 580. So you can see, the 580s with the 590. Now you guys can see with my 590, it's up there. Every once in a while we're hitting 3,400, but take a look over on my memory. We're at 2,300. I've cranked this up quite a bit. And once you get above 34, I find that I have significantly more invalid shares. So I've taken it down to the 2,300, which keeps me just shy of that 34 mega hash. Okay, so this rig does 220. We're going to round it. You see at the top here, 220 mega hash. So we're going to go over to what to mine. And let's say we had 7 580s. I know we got one 590 in there. Let's hit calculate. So that says if we had 7 580s, it would put us at 213. So we're going to go ahead and update to 220. And we saw at the wall, we were doing 980 watts. Now my cost is the 0.057. I'm going to go ahead and calculate that, but I'm going to change it to about 10 cents because I think that's more relatable to a lot of you guys. So let me go ahead and do calculate. And it's telling me Ethereum is the best to mine on these 7 cards. And it's telling me that my revenue per day is $17.81. My cost per day is $1.34. So my profitability is $16.47. So let's go ahead and bring that up here. So $16.47 times 365 days. That's $6,011.55. Now, I'm going to put an estimate up here on my hardware cost. I'm going to say I paid about $300 for each of these. The Fat Boy, I may have paid a little bit more, but there's a few of the 580s that I actually got cheaper at like $250. Now, granted, this was months ago. So we're going to round it all to say 300 times 7 cards. So that's $2,100. Plus, we paid $189 for the RevTech board. Plus $100 for the power supply. And then it's like $15 for the breakout board. So about $2,400 we're going to say. So we're going to take that and do $2,400 for that rig. We're going to hit calculate. And we can see our break even is 146 days. That's really good, guys. That is really good. Now, if I come up here and change this to, instead of 0.057, and if you guys are like, whoa, pump the brakes, why is your electricity cost so low? I'll put a link down below to the video explaining why my cost is so low and what I have done to lower that cost. But I'm going to put this to 10 cents because I feel like that's more of a average, more of a standard out there. And let's go ahead and get calculate. So if we do that, we're making $15.37 per day times 365. So it's $5,610 a year, which is still really good. Now you can see though, our break even, it's gone up a few days, not ton, about 10 days, give or take, for our break even. But this is a pretty profitable rig. I mean, I'm really happy with this rig. That's why I'm currently on the hunt for my 8th 580. Please don't email me. Please don't message me. I actually do not buy or sell cards to community members. And it's nothing I have against you guys. It is just the fact that I don't want kind of that community drama. The hobbyist miner, you know, sold me this card and now this is happening. Or this is happening and this isn't what I expected. And blah, blah, blah. It's like, I try to avoid that at all costs. So I don't buy cards from community members. So I don't care how cheap of a 580 you want to sell me. Unless you're sending it to me for free, please don't reach out to me and try to get me to buy your 580. I will spend my time like every other miner and look for the deals and get myself an 8th 580. Well, guys, that's it for today. I want to put together a fun video just kind of going over my 580 rig. This is still one of my favorite rigs out there. 580s are a workhorse. They're still relevant, especially with the way the market is now for any of like the 3000 series cards. I won't go near those if I don't have to. There's some situations where like I win a new egg shuffle and I'm like, okay, this is no brainer. MSRP, why not? But outside of that, man, I'll stick with my sub $500 cards for right now. Granted, I have to buy a lot more of them, but I love my RX580s. Well, if you guys have a 580, I'd love to hear your story about your 580, what you bought it for, what your power consumption is, and what your profitability is per day, and what type of hash rate are you getting out of it. I'd love to hear about that, guys. Leave a comment down below. Well, guys, thank you guys very much for joining me today for another video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Take care.